Have you heard of xTool Studio? It is brand new and it is the software that powers all xTool machines. In this video, we are going to talk about what xTool Studio is, why we're not talking about Creative Space anymore, and we're going to do a full walkthrough of the software. So if you want to learn about Studio, stick around. Hey there, I'm Sarah. You're watching Creative Ramblings. We talk a lot about lasers on this channel, so if you are a laser user or an aspiring laser crafter, hit that subscribe button. You're going to find videos here that are definitely going to be helpful in your creative journey. Today we are talking about xTool Studio. So here's what we're going to cover in this video. This is going to be for anyone who is a current xTool laser or machine user and is wondering about this switch between Creative Space to Studio. This video is also going to work for brand new xTool users who have no idea what Creative Space is and just want to learn about Studio. If that describes you, the brand new user, I want you to use those chapter buttons down below and just skip ahead to the tutorial. Before we dive into the tutorial, I want to talk a little bit about why Studio, why xTool made the change, and what some of the differences are that we're going to see between Creative Space and Studio, and some of what stayed the same. xTool Studio was released in early September 2025. If you went to their website and went to download their software, you would notice that you can no longer download Creative Space and only Studio. So xTool decided to completely revamp their software versus keep upgrading Creative Space. And they did this for user experience. It is a completely refreshed user experience. It's going to have a lot of the same functions, but again, they're easier to use. It is smoother, and it's a little more intuitive as far as finding what you need and creating what you need. They've also incorporated a lot more AI into their software. You can use it, you can bypass it, but it's there if you need it. And they have also incorporated a ton of templates and fonts and clip art and all kinds of things so that you can come into Studio and just start creating without having to bring in designs from other places. If you are currently using xTool Creative Space for whatever xTool machine you have, you can keep using it. It is no longer going to be updated, but it still powers all of the machines. If you open xTool Creative Space and you are prompted to upgrade to xTool Studio, which I did, I upgraded to xTool Studio, it is actually going to download as a separate program. So Creative Space doesn't go away, none of your saved settings or anything move from Creative Space. Studio downloads as a completely separate program. So you can use it for a little while, and maybe if you're not super comfortable with it yet, or you're in the middle of a really big order, you can just go back to Creative Space. Completely usable, it's just not being updated. Starting with the xTool P3, which just came out in September, every machine going forward is only going to use Studio. So if you own the P3, you cannot use it with Creative Space, and anything they come out with going forward, like that new F2 UV laser that we've been hearing about, that's going to operate just on Studio. I've been using xTool Studio for a couple of weeks now, and I really wanted to get some practice with it before I came here and made a video for you. So I use Studio on a laptop. It's a Windows 11 laptop. It has a ton of memory. It is really fast. It far exceeds the minimum requirements needed to run Studio. I run Lightburn on it. I run other software on it. It is only used to power my machines. All that being said, I have had some lag issues with Studio, so it runs a little slow for me. The more I use it, the better it gets. So some people have said it does run slow for them, and I have experienced that. Make sure that your minimum requirements for your machine match what is needed for Studio, and then just have some patience. We're still on version 1.0. They are going to be upgrading. One of the things that xTool recommended if you're using a laptop is to have it plugged into a power source. So I try to do that whenever I can, and that is supposed to speed it up just a little bit. So without further ado, let's jump into the software. This is the home screen of xTool Studio. Now, a lot of this is going to look the same as XCS, and all the features are still here. Some of them are just moved around, and there's a lot of new stuff added. So I am signed in and I have 170 of these AI credits. This is going to come up later, but this is where we see where we're at. Up here, I can go to my space where things might be saved. If you have some stuff saved in the cloud, there is a limited amount of space that you can use. We can also go to our materials library here. It's a really good way to understand, let's say if I click on this rock coaster, it's actually going to take me out, but it's a really good way to understand settings. I can pick my machine and I can see settings for specific materials. So that's something I can do right from the home screen. The other thing we can do is go to templates, and this is new in Studio and it's very cool. Templates are editable projects. And so I can click on any one of these, import it into the canvas, scale it, maybe make some changes, add some text, and these I'm able to then use on my own. So there's a couple different ways to get to templates, but it's important to know that it is on your home screen here in Studio. Couple other things up on the very top here, we can check for updates. This is version 1.0.1, I believe. And we can also get to software settings here, not machine settings, but software settings. A lot of different things we can do here. And if you're looking to change something specific, definitely check in this settings menu. All the way down on the bottom about XCS, version 1.0.15, we can check for updates here. So let's go to Canvas by clicking on New Project. This is our canvas, and that beep right there was my xTool F1 Ultra connecting because I already had it on. It was on before when I was using the software. But if you want to connect a machine, you go right here to Switch Device. Every machine xTool makes, even the old ones that are no longer manufactured, are down here so you can connect to Studio. This means that Studio works with everything. These are the machines that I've already used with Studio, so you would just click on the machine and it connects. You can also go to these three little dots right here. There are some user guides for your machine. We can go to device settings and I can see everything I need to know, whether I need to update the firmware or whatever, some different accessories. Anything you need to know about your machine is going to be here in device settings. So let's start up on the very, very top. This is our home button. This takes us back to the screen we were just on. This next is our project tab. If I wanted to open another project, I would click this plus button right here. All the way over, I have this check for updates and setting button. And then this is an AI kind of chat bot that you can ask questions to if you're looking for something. Over on the left, this is our main menu, and you can access everything from here. There are a ton of shortcuts for all of these, but if you're ever looking for how to do something, I would have to have an image on the canvas. It is probably over here in this main menu. Next up, we have our save button. We have our upload to MySpace button. So this would save it locally to your drive or your computer. This would upload it to MySpace. And this one lets us bring in an image. So let's bring in an SVG and play around with that a little bit. So this is an SVG. I believe I got this off of Creative Fabrica. And once I pull this in, I'm going to get new options that come up. So let's look along the top bar here. The X and Y is the position of this on the canvas, and that'll change as I move this around. The next is the width and height of the SVG. I can easily change this by pulling the boxes, or I can type in numbers. If I unlock the aspect ratio, then when I change it, it is not a uniform aspect ratio. I'm going to come down and hit undo on here so that we are locked back into place. I can rotate, but I can also rotate freehand here as well. This next button is if you have multiple items on your canvas and you want to bring them forward or back, you can also access that by right-clicking and clicking Arrange. Then we have our alignment tool. This is great if you've got multiple items that you want to line up. Then we can flip our item back and forth, up and down. Next here we have the Unite options. And so there are a bunch of different options to unite multiple layers. Let me show you an old graphic I have that shows you exactly what that does. You will absolutely use these when you have multiple items on your canvas. I use them all the time. It's really helpful to know what they do. Next up, we have make a compound vector, and that's what we're going to do here. Because right now, this came in as a bunch of different pieces, and we're not doing anything with color. We are just going to engrave this on a little piece of wood all at one time. So I'm going to make it a compound vector, which brings everything together, makes engraving more simplified, and it's just easier. When I click that button, I do have the option to undo it or release it, but then I can edit. So what that does is shows me all the individual nodes of my entire vector. Now there is nothing I want to change here, but if I did want to change it, I can come up and move these around and play around with any of these little dots. I can simplify the path. I can cut out full lines. There are a ton of things you can do. Just going to undo those motions, and then we're going to hit done. You have the ability to create really whatever you want by editing all these different nodes here. You can also edit your compound. So that's the next button here. And that is going to take this SVG and cut it up into little pieces. So if I didn't want this little piece, I can click on it, hit the delete button, and take it away. So between these two buttons, you're able to import an SVG and do just about anything you want with it. Let's keep moving down here to text. So I'm going to click on the T, and I am going to type in a teacher's name and kind of move it up to the middle here. And then on the right, I'm just going to select engrave. That's going to help us see things a little bit better. We will get to this whole right panel in a minute. When I hit text, I have a lot of those same options, but if you hit these three dots right here, these are the important options. So click on Lotto, which is your default font whenever it comes up, and we have a ton of fonts here. Now there are xTool fonts, there are your system fonts that are on your computer, and then you have the option to upload other fonts. And if I scroll over them, you can see the font change, so I can see what it's going to look like. Anything that has this little $sign here, it says limited free, which means there are some limitations on how you can use this. I have not found documentation on exactly what that means. My thought is that I could use it for personal use or limited commercial use. When I do get that answer, I'll post it down in the description or the comments because I have not found it yet. But let's come to a script font. And then we can X out of there. And then if there were options for bold or something like that, we could change it. We could change the font size, or we can just pull in and out like this. Now we are going to engrave this, but I'm going to change it to cut for just a moment. It's really important when working with text and cutting, specifically a script font, to know that each and every one of these letters is going to cut out separately, which means the U, the L, the I, and the E are all going to be separate. Once I have my text positioned exactly where I want it and it's the right size, I'm going to come up to this button right here and I am going to click weld. That is going to bring all these letters together so it would cut out all as one piece. That is not super important when you're engraving, but it's really important to know when you're cutting. If I wanted to connect the text and the SVG, I can highlight everything and come right up here to group. And that just means I can pull this over and everything is attached. So let's keep moving down to this next line right here. We have a line, a rectangle, a circle that I can just draw shapes. The last one on there is vector. And a vector is this little pen that you can draw anything you want, and then you can play around with it and you can edit it just like we could with that SVG. Get rid of both of those for now. Actually going to keep this rectangle for something else in a little bit. Change it to engrave. So we're going to skip this box. We're going to come back to this. This is templates. We're going to go to shape or elements for now. This has always been part of XCS and is now part of Studio, but it is expanded. So we got a lot of clip art and things that we can use. Again, you'll see some of these have that limited free option on it, but a lot of new stuff. If you're familiar with XCS, there's a lot of new stuff in here, and we can search, which we could not search before. Let's go way up to the top here. you're going to find a number of items that have this little blue lightning bolt on here. And this means that we have a smart template that allows for quick editing. So let's click on the star and it's going to bring it over to our canvas. With that star highlighted, I can come up here and click edit, and I can change all kinds of things about this star. So I could make it an 8-point star. I can change the radius of the inside and outside. And when I have it exactly how I want it, I hit this explode button down here, and it just turns it into a regular SVG. I love that it's called explode. I think that's really fun. So we could change that to cut, and now we've got an SVG we can work with. So now if I come back up to templates, we're going to see some of those very similar features. We were able to access templates from the main page as well, but here they are again, right in our canvas. And you can filter them. There's a lot of different options. You'll see this smart template again. So again, we have templates that we're able to edit. We can look at premiums that do cost, or we can look at free templates. When you click on one, you are going to see the whole project come up in front of you. You can pick your machine, and we can choose from different machines. You can pick your material, and then we can open it. And this will open right into your canvas, or you can open it up in a new canvas. So if you are looking to find a project that is already created for you, there are a ton of options here in templates. So let's come down to AI. We'll go back up to the next one in just a second. There are a lot of AI features built into Studio. Now, remember those credits I showed you at the very beginning? Almost everything you do with AI does require credits. So these are nice to have. If you want to use them, you can buy more credits. They're not that expensive, but you don't have to use these. So you are able to do a whole bunch of cool photo processing here and turn your photo into all types of different things. You've got some screen printing options here, some blade cutting for that M1 Ultra, and some embossment for like the F series where you can do some really deep engravings. So a lot of options there under AI. And this bottom button here is for MySpace. It'll take you to the projects that you have uploaded to the cloud. All right, let's come to this one right here. These are all of our applications, a lot of the same things we saw in XCS, but also a lot of new stuff. So I did highlight that little rectangle on the canvas there, and I'm going to come up to grid array. What grid array does is just make a grid of whatever shape we have highlighted. Circular array does the same thing, but in a circle, and you can get all kinds of really cool stuff here. Next up, material test array. So we are going to get into how to pick settings for your material. But if you have a material where you're really not sure and you want to create your own test array, this is where you do it. Make sure you have something selected, like I had a little rectangle. You're going to set the minimum and maximum, power and speed, and then adjust your rows and columns. Once you hit done, I would take everything else off this canvas and just process this and nothing else. And then you'll get a really good feel for what your settings should be. Next up, we've got code generation. I use this all the time. You type in a website, hit save, and you have a QR code that is scannable. I have a whole video on how to make a scan to pay sign for your craft fair booth where people can scan it and pay you via Venmo or PayPal or whatever. But this QR code generator is fantastic for that. Next up, we have smart nesting. So this is a great feature, no matter what machine you're using, to make sure that you are getting the most out of your material. So it's going to put everything as close together as possible and not waste any material. Batch fill is really cool. If I have 10 keychains in my machine and I want to put the same logo on all of them, you can use batch fill to do that for you. So you're not adjusting all of them. That is pretty cool. Measurement helps you measure the distance between two objects. I don't think I've used that, but maybe you will. You've got it here if you need it. Next up, we have these 3 new items that are new to Studio. So let's go down to the bottom first. Map Designer was introduced on a later version of XCS. It actually takes you out to Laser Map Maker, and it is a paid service, but it is incredibly cool. And so many laser makers have used this that xTool partnered with them to embed it in their software. This is really cool to check out. There is a 2-week free trial if you want to give it a try. So let's look at some of these new things that came up. We have earring, keychain, and box generator. These are going to work a lot like the smart templates. This gives us all kinds of templates down the side for some pretty cool earrings. It shows you what's going to cut, and it allows you to pick different styles if there are any available. And I can add or remove the hole, change the hole size, and then I can import it into my canvas. And then I can cut it from there. So the earring, box, and keychain generator are all going to work the same. I think the box one is really cool because those can be hard to design by yourself. So it is a great way to come in here and get some templates that are ready to go. And most of these are completely free. There's no AI credits. There's no purchasing. You can just use them. It does eliminate some of the need to have a third party like Creative Fabrica or Etsy where you're getting these designs from. Down on the very bottom, we have this. This is our select tool, which we've been using. If I click to hand, I can move the whole canvas around. And then down here, I have canvases. So let's say I have a large project, like maybe I imported one of those box templates after I generated it, and it is way too big to cut all on one piece, especially on my F1 Ultra. So I can add a couple of canvases here and move some pieces down. It also works if this Miss Julie pencil here, maybe I wanted to make this for 10 different teachers. I had the main one on the first canvas and then all the different names on a second canvas, something like that. So a lot of things you can do with canvases. Then we can play with layers too. That's this last button here. If I click on the layer button, it shows me I have 2 different layers right now, a red and a black. When you have a complicated design and you are working with different pieces, sometimes it helps to group them into layers. And then we can come back and say, I'm going to click on the red and only work with the red. And I'm going to hide that black layer by just clicking this eyeball here. And it just allows for ease of working with very complicated designs. You can also pull this little button here and you can change layers by moving them to different colors. If I come onto the canvas and I right click on my mouse, I have a lot of different options here. The new one with Studio is a light or dark canvas, which is really cool if you are working with lighter colors or just like that dark background. And then on the very bottom, I have undo, redo, zoom in, and our processing history. So when you are laser engraving something, you can minimize it and come back to the screen, and this will show you what is currently happening. Both of these items on our canvas right now are SVGs. I want to show you what can happen when you import a photo. We are going to bring in Kenny. I think he's been in all of my software videos. This is a black and white photo of him that I took into Canva. I removed the background and I turned it into grayscale. I do recommend doing that in an outside program. It's sometimes just a little bit easier. But when we have a photo that we bring in, first of all, if I click back on this Miss Julie thing, I can score this, engrave it, or cut it, and I have all kinds of different settings. When I bring in an image, I can only engrave it. We have a lot of the similar options up on top, but if I hit edit, I have a ton of photo options here. So we can crop it. If you did have a background, you can go to AI cutout here. Now keep in mind, anything that says AI is going to cost you credits. So if I do AI cutout, what it's trying to do is cut out the background, but there currently is no background on this. I can, and it says down here that this would cost me 6 credits to do this. I can click over to manual cutout and I can use the magic eraser or just the eraser button to cut out the background. There's a lot of cool stuff. This reminds me actually of the Canva interface. This looks very, very similar, but there's a lot of different options you can do. Tracing is free. Kenny does not trace well, but if you brought in an image, let's say somebody sent you their logo and they wanted you to engrave it, but it was an image, you can come in here and trace it and turn it into an SVG. Pictures that you take with a camera don't trace well. But again, if you had a PNG of a logo, that's probably going to trace very well. We can keep scrolling down. You've got a lot of different filters here, so I could turn Kenny into a sketch if I wanted to do that. I can also come down and restyle. We saw this in the AI tab earlier. This does cost credits, but I could turn him into a line art or all kinds of different things. I forgot one important feature, so I'm going to come back in here and show you it. When you have your image clicked on, we click edit, and right up on top here is really basic adjustments. So we can auto adjust our picture, which let's do that to this photo and make it ready for engraving. So that's going to give me some really good adjustments, make it black and white, and make it easy to engrave. There is another button here that is really useful. This is the invert button. If you are ever engraving on something dark, so a black slate coaster or a black aluminum business card, you need to invert your image, and this is going to come out looking beautiful. If you're doing it on anything with a light background, no need to invert. You just want to keep it grayscale. So let's move over to the right-hand side. The F1 Ultra is already connected. We went through that up on the top. Under mode, we have process on a flat surface. Yeah, I would pick one of these other ones if I was doing the conveyor or something different. And now I'm going to pick my material. This is a big difference from XCS. I kind of like the way this is laid out. I have a piece of scrap basswood in there right now, so I am going to go to wood, and I am going to click on basswood plywood here. It is going to tell me a little bit about the material, and I am going to click apply. Next, I am going to auto measure. And the F1 Ultra does have a camera, so the next thing I can do is take a picture, and I will get a refreshed background. This is different if you have something like the M1 or the S1 that has more of a marking system. So now that I have all of this, I am going to take Kenny, kind of move him out of the way, and I'm going to turn off output, which means we are not working with him right now. I'm going to take this little star and delete that. We are just going to work with Miss Julie. So I'm going to size this appropriately for the piece of wood. I have 3 options to score, cut, or engrave. And I am telling xTool Studio that I want to use the reference, this basswood plywood settings. If I have if I want to do my own, I can come down to user defined and I can just put my own in here and then I can save it. So if I know the settings or I have a weird material that's not in there, I can create my own. Most of the time you're going to want to go with the reference, in this case, the blue light reference. Then I can click on one-click set and I get that test array. So basswood's kind of tricky. It's not great for even engraving. I know that I need to go a little bit higher in power and lower in speed. So I'm going to come up one here to 500 speed and 70 power. You can also change it down here. You can change the power and speed manually. You can change the number of passes. You can change the lines per centimeter, which just means there's more lines. The lines are closer together when you're engraving. Engraving mode, bidirectional is the best. That means when the laser goes back and forth, it engraves both ways. Look at that little graphic it shows us right there. So I keep it at bidirectional. There is also some advanced settings, and this will vary depending on what kind of laser you're using. I would recommend if you are new and you don't know what these mean, don't use them. Stick with the basics first. The F1 Ultra has 2 lasers. I can switch up here if I want, but it is going to recommend the laser that's right for the material that I chose, which is the blue light or the diode in this case. Down here, we have a preview button. This is kind of a weird thing for just engraving on a piece of basswood because it's just going to show me what it looks like on basswood. If I was doing a cutout, it would show me the cutout. It might be helpful if you think that you have everything set correctly, like you have all the cut pieces set and you have all the engraved pieces set. This might be helpful to show or to see if you did it all correctly. There really are some parts of xTool Studio that are kind of slow for me and take a little while to load. This preview for the last couple of weeks has just been really long to load for me, and I don't find it that helpful, so we are going to keep moving on here. Way down here, this little dotted box, this is your framing box. So if we click that, it's going to frame over on the laser. I always recommend framing. It's going to give you a really good idea of where your project is going to sit on the material. The little drop down next to it is going to be your framing settings. From here, if we click the down button next to process, we can evade smoke. I do like that one, just a little more efficient processing. And then we can change the processing path. I always leave mine on auto. And then we process. On this screen, I can see what I've got. I've got an estimated time of 19 seconds. I can preview the processing path. Normally what this does, if I hit play, I have it on 10 times speed or whatever, this would come through, and the laser would go back and forth, and it would show me exactly how this was going to engrave. This is another thing that doesn't work all that well for me in Studio, but it's not super important. So I can hit start, and then I can hit start on my F1 Ultra, and we engrave for about 19 seconds. If I wanted to go back to the canvas, I can click minimize, and then down in the bottom right corner here, it says I have something processing, and so I can click back on that and come right to the main screen. When it's done, I can click finished or process again, and I'm taken back to this screen. So we are done with Miss Julie. I am going to delete that. I'm going to right click and hide the background, and we're going to do some things with Kenny. So first I need to turn the output back on. With any kind of image you bring in, you can only engrave it. There is no other option. I'm going to keep that basswood selected. I do not recommend engraving photos on basswood. Use a little bit nicer of a plywood. Basswood just doesn't have the right type of grain for it, and you're going to get some weird looking photos, not high quality. So down here, I don't have that one click set. Images are a little bit different. And you can see that my options down here are a little bit different. So we are engraving in dots, or a dot duration, power, and DPI. And this is the setting that will get us all these different dark and light spots of a photo. So you can leave it at the recommended settings, or you can play with it if you've engraved it once and you want to tweak it a little bit. The bitmap mode, it tells you all these different ways that you can engrave. I'm going to put up a graphic here to show you a good idea of what these mean. There's also a link that xTool has that shows you how to pick one of these. Typically for grayscale photos like this, Jarvis works for most things. Again, bidirectional engraving. And then everything is the same down here. We could go ahead, put a new piece of material in there and process it. So that is just about everything in xTool Studio. So that was a pretty in-depth and long overview of xTool Studio. There is a lot in there, but I guarantee I probably forgot something. So if you are playing around with Studio and you have more questions, please let me know down in the comments. Or if there's something that wasn't completely clear when I was explaining it, let me know and we're going to chat. I try to do a lot of software tutorials on this video so you can get really comfortable and then move forward in whatever creative journey that you are on. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see beginner projects for the S1, the M1 Ultra, the P2S, and the F1 Ultra, possibly the apparel printer too, on using Studio so we can streamline this. Because if you have just gotten one of those machines and you find one of my Creative Space tutorials, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So look for those coming forward. If you want to catch all of my videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.